Welcome to Safe Money Retirement Radio with your host, Tim Wood. Tim is a certified financial fiduciary and a no-market risk retirement and income specialist, and the owner of SafeMoneyRetirement.com, primarily serving Western North Carolina, East Tennessee, and Southwest Virginia. But he's sought after nationally for his expertise in helping people secure their retirements. Mr. Wood is a licensed life insurance professional in multiple states and specializes in working with people who are near retirement and those who have already retired with wealth management, income planning, and asset protection strategies. And now, here to talk with you about no market risk retirement planning, your host, Tim Wood.
Welcome to Safe Money Retirement Radio. I'm Tim Wood, an asset and retirement protection specialist. After almost 2 years of work, I released my book, Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success, back in 2022. And today, I'm thrilled to have journalist and podcast pioneer Doug Sandler with Turnkey Podcast Productions with me to discuss the 5th chapter of my book. Welcome to Safe Money Retirement Radio, Doug.
Hey, thanks, Tim. Thanks. I'm excited to be here, and thank you again for not only writing the book, but for sharing it with our listeners in a couple of different formats. People consume content differently, some through audio and some through reading the books themselves. And this is a great combination of the two as we go through chapter 5 today. I love especially speaking with best-selling authors because I'm able to get more details about the stories they share in the book. And you've got some great stories in yours. So I'm excited to dive in to chapter 5 called Legacy Planning, More Than Just Peace of Mind. So, Tim, if we could, I want to define a little bit what legacy planning really means to our audience so that they can feel relatable to the content that we're about to share with them. So what is legacy planning?
Legacy planning is basically I hate to say it, but basically kind of what it sounds like. What's going to happen? What's going to be the legacy after you're gone? So making a plan for that. It may be life insurance. It may be what's going to happen with your accounts when you're gone. It may be, do you want to do some Roth conversions now so when you're gone, your dependents or your beneficiaries aren't going to have to pay taxes on those accounts that you still have taxes owed on? There's a lot of different things to look at, but as an overall definition, it's essentially figuring out what do I want to happen when I'm gone? How do I want it to happen? In what order do I want it to happen? All that kind of stuff, basically making a plan for when you're gone, for when your spouse is gone. What if you both go at the same time? What if one of you goes before the other? What's the plan? Basically just overall making a plan for that. And then again, going down the line, your kids, your grandkids, what do you want to happen? What kind of a legacy do you want to leave?
Understand. And part of legacy planning involves insurance. So I'm hoping that you might be able to, life insurance specifically. So I'm hoping you might be able to share a little bit about the two types of insurances, life insurance specifically, that you share in this chapter.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a bunch more than 2 different types of life insurance, as most people probably know. But when you really drill it down and go all the way up to the top of the life insurance pyramid, so to speak, essentially you're either talking about a term, which is a term type of policy, or a whole life type of policy. And they're exactly what they sound like. A term is for a specific term, could be a 5-year, 10-year, 20-year, 30-year. Another way to think about it is it terminates. So a term policy is for a certain set period of time. It's much less expensive. In some instances, a lot of instances, it makes a lot of sense, but it depends on the person. It depends on the situation. Now, a whole life policy going the other direction is exactly what it sounds like. It's there for your whole life. Can the premiums go up as you get older? Yes, but they can't drop you as long as you continue to pay the premiums. So figuring out which one of those 2 types of life insurance, if any life insurance at all, makes sense, because in all cases it doesn't. Some cases it's fantastic and it fits a perfect need, but in some cases it's not needed. So it's not needed in all cases. It's just a matter of figuring out which one's going to make the most sense and talking to someone that can show you both of those options so you can make sure you're making the right choice.
Absolutely. And now would be a really good time to remind everybody not only to listen to this episode and listen to the chapters in the book that we are bringing to you in audio form, but also to go back and listen to or read a copy of Tim's book. And you can get your copy. It's free. It's for you. It's by going to his website or calling a phone number. It's that simple. Just log into SafeMoneyRetirement.com or call 844-905-SAFE to claim your free copy while supplies last. I want to chat a little bit more about insurance, but I want to head over to a different kind of insurance. You share some information in this chapter, in chapter 5, about long-term care insurance. What takeaways do you want our audience to have as it relates to long-term care insurance? Because I know it can be a complex subject to talk about.
It is. Yeah, we could easily do a whole episode, probably more than one, just on long-term care
I think there's whole
insurance.
entire podcasts on long-term care insurance.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. The first thing I would say is statistics just came out in 2021, so recently, that show that over 70%, hear that again, 70, over 70% of everyone over age 65 is going to have some form of long-term care incident sometime in the rest of their life. So over 70% of the people that are listening right now are going to need some sort of a long-term care, whether it's, in-home care, whether you're going to need to be confined to a long-term care facility. There's a bunch of different things it could be, but over 70% of people are going to need that. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is if you are in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, for sure, it can be more and more challenging to get traditional long-term care policies, and they can be super expensive. I mean, they can be just crazy expensive, but there are other options other than just traditional long-term care policies. And that's really the biggest takeaway that someone needs to have for long-term care. Do you need to have a plan for long-term care? Absolutely. Everything that you can think about, you need to have a plan for. And long-term care is definitely one of them. 70% for each person over 65. If you're married, the chances that one of you are going to need long-term care are extremely high. So what you need to do is come up with a plan. And there are plans that do not have any kind of medical questionnaires or any kind of, having to worry about getting approved or any of that kind of stuff that have long-term. There's plans out there that have long-term care benefits. Now, is it different than a regular long-term care policy? Yes. But can it still work? Yes. And again, that's why we need to talk to each person and look at each person individually, going through that fact finder appointment process that we've discussed before, and figure out what's going to be the need. What do we need to do? How do we need to, to approach this to make sure that it's done smartly? In many cases, a traditional long-term care policy isn't the best bet. In many cases, there's other things that we can do, whether it's life insurance with a long-term care rider, whether it's some sort of a guaranteed lifetime annuity that has a long-term care benefit. There's a bunch of different things that we can look at that don't have any medical pre-qualifications at all. So the biggest takeaway, you need to make sure you're covered for long-term care in one way or the other, because I have seen it just eat up people's retirement savings. Personally, I live in a relatively small town up in the mountains of Tennessee. There's an app you can get on your phone that actually tells what the average long-term care costs are. In my little area, right here in the mountains of Northeast Tennessee, the average $9,300 a month to be in long-term care. And that's in a small market. If you're listening and you're in a bigger market, I've seen it double that. So you need to have a plan, and you need to speak with someone that can show you all of the options, not that's just going to push you into this particular type of long-term care coverage or that. You need to have someone that can show you all of the options and come up with what's going to make the most sense for you. That was part 1 of my interview with Doug Sandler about my book of Chapter 5, Legacy Planning, More Than Just Peace of Mind. Stay tuned next week for the rest of Chapter 5. Well, I'm about out of time, and I would like to thank you for listening to Safe Money Retirement Radio. If you're serious about your financial future, give me a call, and together we'll get your retirement savings on the fast track to accumulate while reducing exposure to market risk. Thanks for listening, and until next time at the same time, I'm Tim Wood, reminding you to stay safe so you can step into a secure future.
You've been listening to Safe Money Retirement Radio with your host, Tim Wood. Find out how to guarantee that your hard-earned money is safe with locked-in returns that will never go down due to market risk, so you can have the future that you deserve. Call Tim Wood now for your free copy of his #1 best-selling book, Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success, along with the free Safe Money Retirement Information Kit at 844-905-SAFE. That's 844 888-905-7233 or visit him online for more details at safemoneyretirement.com. The preceding information does not represent tax, legal, or investment advice. Surrender charges apply to base contracts. Optional lifetime income benefit riders are used to calculate lifetime payments only and are not available for cash surrender or in a death benefit unless specified in the annuity contract. Fees may apply. Guarantees are based on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the insurance company. No information presented today should be acted upon without meeting with a qualified and licensed professional. Obviously, by calling us now, you are just taking the first step towards protecting your retirement. It's important that you read all insurance contract disclosures carefully before making a purchase decision. Rates and returns mentioned on this program are subject to change without notice.